Hey again, guys. We got the Marshall Studio Vintage 20 combo today to check out. I've got some earplugs and a coffee, everything you need to properly operate a Marshall at about 30 centimeters away from it. So right now we've got all the knobs just straight up at noon in the lower power setting. And this is kind of just, I think, what this amp was born to do. So I'm going to put these earplugs in and just let you kind of hear it in its sort of default setting. Okay. This is no pedals, just straight in with a Les Paul. As you can hear, yeah, it's a classic rock machine, you know? It's what you'd expect it to be. This amp is insanely loud it's a 10-inch speaker and a 20-watt amp. If you're getting this to play at home, you know, play in your bedroom, whatever, I would suggest you have a giant bedroom on a farm in the middle of nowhere, or you get some earplugs, or you have a very understanding family, or some combination of the three, because this thing is gonna give you just the most epic tinnitus you've ever had in your life, but it sounds amazing. I mean, it is that sound on all those records. So that's just straight into the number one bright input. Let's go to the other bright input, the lower gain bright input, and let's just see the tonal differences there, you know? So this is pretty much the same settings, a little more mids, a little more treble. We'll put these bad boys back in. Here we go. It should be a little bit, maybe slightly warmer sound. So it's a slight different variations on the same sound. If you kind of back the treble off, take the bass and the mids up, back the presence off, give it a little bit more volume, it should warm up even more. Yeah. It's just a lot of energy coming at you, a lot of electricity, a lot of fun. Okay, so let's go into the dark channel, the number 2 input. Now, this is the interesting thing about this amp is, you know, probably most of the 70s recordings, you know, this amp, people are plugged into the number 1 bright input. If you go just straight into the dark input, this is what it sounds like. I'm gonna take the earplugs off because it's not nearly as punching. It basically sounds like jazz. So pretty cool. You'd never expect that sound to come out of a Marshall, I don't think. And but it's a great little, you get a hollow body, you know, if you had a 335, you put that in there, that's a very convincing jazz tone. Okay, so then the question is, you know, if you want a true clean sound of this amp, like closer to a Fender clean, how do you get it? Well, the best way I found to get it is you take a patch cable, and this is widely available information on the internet, and you can I'm gonna plug into the low side of the dark channel, and you jump the high side of the dark channel into the bright channel, and then what you can do is you can sort of start out, and what I do is I put the EQ at noon, and I just bring up the volume of the dark channel until it's about where I want it, and then it's, you know how it's a little dark, so there's not much definition, so if you just take the other bright volume up, blend that in so you hear some of that high end, right? Smaller reverb here. Then you got a pretty awesome clean tone. So this thing is very versatile. Now, here's the thing about it. If you're gigging this, you know, because of sort of the patching and all the workarounds you have to do to get different sounds, it's sort of probably more of a just set it on one sound and go thing. You know, you either set your clean sound and use pedals, or you set it to dirty and you can kind of roll your volume off if you're in a rock band. But if you need like the funk cleans, you know, like the clean cleans, you kind of have to start there, you know, and then add pedals. So I've got this set pretty clean, and I'm going to add a tube screamer from just the Line 679 pedal and see what that kind of does to the clean sound. Pretty awesome. Yeah, and so then if we go and we add something a little heavier, like a rat style pedal. You know, so that's at a volume where I don't have to wear the earplugs. You know, it's not so just strident and crazy. But you could gig, that's a gig volume, I would say close to gig volume. If I flip it up into the high power mode, that's probably going to be about right where you'd need it to sit with the drummer. Yeah, pretty good. fuzz pedal. This is a tone bender style pedal. Let's see here. A little too much gain on that. Let's go bring the gain back a little bit. Pretty awesome. Still definitely, this amp has a frequency in the upper mids that really sort of hits you right in the ear hole, and that's what makes it cut in a band, you know, and cut through the mix. It's also what can really, you know, hurt your ears if you're not careful. So just be careful with this amp. I noticed, you know, I've had some other Marshall style amps that weren't the plexi circuit. You know, I could play those at louder volumes for a longer time, but this one, if it's too loud and you play it for too long, you're gonna feel it in your ears, you know? Anyway, but it's a Marshall, so that's what it does. Okay, so what else can you do with this amp? So, yeah, you can basically, the old school 70s approach would be, I'll show you how it cleans up in the bright input. They'd go into the #1 bright input, right? And then what they would do is, put the earplugs back in because it's going to attack me again. You'd play your, you know, you'd have your sort of rhythm sound, you know, right here. First you'd have your clean sound, right? So let's try this. So neck pickup, little bit of volume. Okay, so, you know, pretty clean, little hair on the notes. Then you push that up a little bit for your rock kind of rhythm sound. And then for your leads, you maybe hit a tube screamer, right? And then you then it goes kind of aggro and all crazy on you, you know? So one of the defining characteristics of this amp is sort of the high end, they call it chirp, you know, it's the pick attack, it's the transient on the string, you know, it's almost, it's like got little teeth, you know, and that's kind of a characteristic Marshall thing, and it's what sort of sets Marshalls apart from all the other brands that sort of make Marshall type amps. Is the Marshall just has its teeth on it, you know, and that's what gives it that high end sort of, you know, bite, and that's like the rock and roll sound, you know. That was with a little slapback delay on there. In front of the distortion, so that can work really well. That's the other thing. The delays and reverbs and stuff, when you've got the distortion going, it's really best to use delays if you're using it in front of the the amp as opposed to reverb, because here's what it sounds like with the reverb in front of the amp distorting. I mean, that's a sound, but it's not a very usable sound, especially for a gig. And the thing about it is this amp has an effects loop, but I don't know if it's just this particular one, but the effects loop, you can put the reverbs and delays and stuff in there, but it still kind of blows them out, you know, and I don't know, I don't find the effects loop very useful. I think it's just the nature of this circuit because it's power tube distortion as opposed to preamp tube distortion. But anyway, okay, so what can this do that we haven't done yet? Well, let's try to take it to heavy land, and it's still on the low power. We're gonna try to make it do Van Halen, so you just gotta, you know, dime it, because it's a Marshall, you gotta turn everything to 10, and it gets hissy. It's a hissy little beast, so just know that I don't know if it's this particular model or not, but I think it's from that bright cap, and it's just a hissy little beast. Gonna have a little coffee before I do this. Gonna try to not mess up some Van Halen here. And let's see if I can get some plate reverb dialed in so it's not gonna wash out. This is gonna be tough. Pretty much impossible. Okay, we'll go no reverb. So this is what it sounds like. Dime, right input number 1. You know, I don't think that this particular amp does Van Halen as well as maybe the Origin series, and I think it's because there's a certain like sagging, crashing sound that happens when a plexi with certain specs is dimed, the way I understand, and it has this, the Eddie sound, you know, the Van Halen sound doesn't really have that sag as much. It kind of, this thing kind of goes. It's a cool sound, but it's not really the Van Halen sound. Okay, let's try to make this do a little bit more of an 80s hard rock thing. So we'll throw in a tube screamer. We got the bright input, and let's just see. That's pretty good. But I would say overall, this thing wants to live in the 70s rock realm, and you can get some sort of Hendrixy style cleans, especially if I had a Strat here, you'd see it, and the cleans would be even better. Would I recommend this amp? I would recommend the amp. You know, I think it's got its purpose, and it's a little bit more niche. This isn't going to be your every gig amp, you know, probably, but it could absolutely compete with a drummer and hang in a gig. So, you know, if you got something Fendery and you got this for your gain sounds, and then you get, you know, something else, EVH for your 80s type stuff, I think you'd be good. But really, this one wants to sort of live in the 70s, and it does that better than about any, I would say, any small amp I've ever tried, you know. So can't wait to, you know, I'm going to try to maybe get the 100-watt Flexi in here at some point on a 4x12 and show you that. So we'll see how that compares to its little baby brother, but this is killer, you know, it wants to rock, you know, so thanks for tuning in, guys, and until next time.